Holy crap, it is bright, too. Hey, folks. Welcome to the Battlefront Livestream podcast, for lack of a better name. I am your regular host, Nathan P. Butler. This is my channel where you can find, among other things, here from the Star Wars Home Video Library, a guide to Disney Infinity for Star Wars fans, which will be relevant for a little while, yet at least, I suppose. And things like my vlog, the voice of reason or lack thereof, relating specifically to Star Wars in most cases. You can find my Star Wars Timeline Gold, the most comprehensive Star Wars chronology available anywhere, over at StarWarsFanWorks.com/timeline. You can find the podcasts that I'm involved with, Star Wars Beyond the Films and Cloud City Casino, both at StarWarsReport.com. Speaking of which, we have with me this time around a gentleman who should be starting to become a familiar voice. Hopefully you've been checking out the Cloud City Casino podcast, again, over at StarWarsReport.com, which is a gaming with a dash of collecting podcast that we do. Have with me the man who originated that podcast. It is sort of the captain of that ship, the Baron Administrator of that fine establishment, Mr. Michael Morris. Hey, Michael, welcome back.
Hey, what's going on, man?
It has been a long, long process. About 2 hours ago, I wired the down payment for the house. So we're just like 2 steps away from actually having the house, and a lot of stress going away. So I'm kind of... it's been a stressful day, but a good day for us. Meanwhile, I know you said you've been playing some Battlefront a little bit recently, right? What have been your goals as you've been playing Battlefront recently?
My goals? Just trying to get my Shadow Trooper armor.
Oh, okay. So you're just essentially trying to level up and do the grind thing then. Cool. That's kind of where I am at this point. I'm sorry, I keep looking over for those who are on the thing. I'm going to turn my blinds a little bit because it's god-awfully bright. There we go. I'm already white enough as it is. But no, I've got to the point where I finished all the hut contracts the other day. Since the last time I did a stream, because the last one really needed to be off stream for me to concentrate enough to do it. And now that those are done, I'm basically like you. I'm sitting around. I've got levels or ranks to grind. And when I get there, I want to have the credits sitting there to be able to buy the new appearance that I want, which in this case is that Weequay, because it's the only thing you really get at level 60. So it looks like it's very much sort of a grinding thing right now. So I guess my question to you to start with, as I go up here and set you up as a partner, there we go. I take that. My first question is not what do you want to hit, what do you want to work on. My first question is, why are you Catwoman? Is there something I should know?
Catwoman's hot.
Okay. Just checking. Making sure there wasn't some kind of, you were, because I know you wear your hair kind of long. I was wondering, are you thinking of transitioning or just, I don't know. No, it's that era. You could do whatever you want. All right, cool. So we got Tron and Catwoman, a very odd combination. That's not even Tron. That's whatever the name is of the character that you play in Tron Evolution. Now available on Xbox One. Through compatibility, and I am still super bright. Like the light is coming in from outside, and I am glowing. I am Casper-esque in my glow. So I guess I'm just gonna close those blinds up completely and turn a lamp on, because otherwise, I'm gonna be super, super white. All right, there we go. Now people can see my pearly whites as the only super white part. All right, so we've got. I'm assuming since we're both grinding at this point, multiplayer would be the thing as opposed to missions. Any particular playlist, any particular type of match, any challenges we're working on? I think the daily is... What is the daily? The daily challenge is 15 shock blaster kills, so that can be done anywhere. What you thinking?
I'm good with anything. I don't believe... none of my hut contracts require anything... specific, I don't believe, or as
Any
far
specific?
as yeah. Let's play some Walker Assault.
Okay, we'll do some Walker Assault. Cool. We actually had a request for Walker Assault the other day, but I was like, no, I'm still working on this other freaking thing with the Dioxis grenades. It did turn out that the 2 that I saved for last did feel like they were the most tedious of the hut contracts. There's the one that requires Dioxis grenade kills, which take a while because Dioxis, a lot of times you'll damage somebody instead of killing them. And then the last one that I did that really needed to be off mic, off stream, because I needed to be able to focus, was the one to get the I forget if it's even called, like Merciless or whatever, to get the new trait card, where you have to get whatever trait card you're using up to rank 3 5 times.
Right.
Which is possible, certainly, but it's tough when you're really not paying attention and playing cautiously. And on the stream, I tend to just run around getting killed or trying to kill a few people. So, which ones are you working on?
I'm still working on I believe it's the Rigby, the one that Bosk uses.
Okay.
And some others that I can't remember at the moment. I'll find out here soon.
Cool. There we go. And Copson Roberts is on the stream. See, you've brought him in because he wasn't on the last couple that I was on, and then as soon as it's you and me again, boom, there you go. So Copson Roberts is back, saying your focus determines your reality, which is quite true. In general, I think that's a good life lesson.
I'm actually finishing up the podcast where we answered his email.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So
yeah, we're
a
tad behind. Yeah. So our next recording session will be 2 days from now. We did not record this previous Thursday, so you guys get to hear the whole saga of me getting my my droid body and my red arm and all that stuff, and the dangers of relying on a government healthcare program. Palpacare sucks. All right, let's see. So yes, I go to HUT contracts here. So you're working on, just for those who are in the stream to kind of know what we're talking about here. So if you're working on the Relby V10, which I didn't realize was a boss gun, that makes more sense now. That one requires 3 targeting rifle streaks, 40 kills with any heavy blaster, and 15 enemies with any targeting rifle. The one that I was talking about that I just finished, Mandalorian Strength, is Berserker. That is what it is. Berserker. So, any other ones you're working on, or just focusing on that one for now?
So I gotta get my objective score up for Back to Bomb.
Okay, that's going to be medic here for those who are watching the stream.
Mandalorian Strength, I've got to get my level 3 on any trait card 5 times.
Okay. Now, you've already bought these with your credits, so now it's just working through them?
Yeah.
Cool.
And also, now this one, I don't actually own any flash grenades or smoke bombs, so I won't be getting hostile negotiations until I do that.
Hostile negotiations, right there.
So that's all I can do at the moment.
Cool. Let's see. Question from Stuffin' Nonsense asks, can I please tell what music we use in the Beyond the Films podcast when we're doing the opening? If you're talking about like the very, very beginning, it's like Star Wars, but it has kind of like a more of a bassy twang to it. I believe Mark got that from Cello Wars, which was like two guys playing cellos doing Star Wars stuff, though it may be a remix of it. I'm honestly not 100% certain. If I think about it the next time we record, I'll ask him. Okay, so I've just been sitting here like not even jumping into the match. I've just been like, oh, look at all. We're just going to look up stuff. And let me get my shock blaster out here. I have changed since the last time you and I talked, Michael, I've started using the was it DL17 or whatever it is. I've been using one of the E11 because I wasn't still not quite as big on the E11, but the other one that looks that has the similar feel that looks like it's got a suppressor and/or condom on the end of it. That one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's the Rebel Blaster.
Yeah. So. All right, guys. Time to go shut down them uplings.
Enemies up ahead.
Shut down my uplink. Click.
Bomber has locked onto our walker.
Oh, and shot out of the sky. There we go. So yeah, so now I'm actually at that point where, I mean, it's funny, and I think you and I spoke about this before on Cloud City Casino, where I liken, I've said it plenty of times on the stream, that I liken the HUD contracts to going to McDonald's, paying the money for your food, being asked to then go work for a while, and then they'll finally give you the food, as opposed to just paying for it, where I think you should either have to earn something or pay for it, not both. Not pay for the opportunity to earn it. But we both agreed that even though we disagree on whether or not that approach to it is fundamentally flawed or not, that in both cases we like the fact that, hey, it's something else to do, something new that's added. Problem being, now I've finished all of them, not just all the ones I've
You got
unlocked,
nothing
but
to do.
yeah, now I've got nothing to do. Now I'm just grinding to unlock stuff again. So on the one hand, I'm like, yay, I can pay for something and just get it. But at the same time, I'm like, but what am I going to do other than just grinding and running around? It's kind of the same kind of thing. Yeah.
Now, funny that you bring that up because, and should probably mention this in our next episode as well. Eric Pfeiffer, who is a friend of ours from Twin Sun Transmission, actually messaged me today because he'd listened to the new episode, and he was telling me that actually one thing that we didn't mention was that the HUT contracts, where you do have to pay for them and still do the objectives, they're not level based like all the others are.
I know I've mentioned that on the stream.
That.
I don't know if we mentioned it on the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true.
So,
it gives you a chance to unlock more things without having to rank up to reach a certain level to unlock them. So in a sense, I guess you could say it's sort of backward then. There's one where you pay the money and then you do the thing. The other is you do a bunch of stuff, albeit not specific things, to rank up, and then you pay the money. So either way, there's sort of a double-gated system. It's just that one of them may...
Right.
I guess the one to me, feels more frustrating because it's the reverse of what you would normally expect from progression. You would expect progress, then pay to unlock, if at all, as opposed to pay to unlock, then do the progression part, I guess.
So instead of the McDonald's reference, it's more like going into Sam's Club, not having a membership, them letting you buy it anyways, but then having you mop the floor to make up for it.
Something like that. I found myself running through. I'm like running through a cave I didn't know existed on this map. I'm like, oh my god, it's a cave! Sweet!
Keep the rebels away from it.
Ah! And yeah, Costa Roberts says, it'd be a nice change from having to clean my bathroom after the Big Mac.
Oh.
Now, we're not advertising with Burger King. You were on the stream where we had the conversation about Burger King, weren't you?
I don't recall, but they are pretty terrible.
Yeah, Burger King is Burger King to someone who is, at least someone like me, who's, I'm assuming it's partially because of lactose intolerance, even when I take a pill. Burger King is like the ultimate... I'm going to just call it a shit factory. I was going to say a sludge factory, but I'm wondering if we're getting too much into specific visual details. Just like the whole thing about... now that, I think, was just... Oh, I've done so many streams recently, I'm forgetting which ones you were involved with, but I'm thinking of the whole Jabba the Hutt saliva thing from a recent stream. But,
yeah, I was not on that one either.
I don't remember what it was. I think it was like Jabba had to slip Leia into the outfit by lathering it with saliva, or something weird that somehow turned the chat into something very, very creepy.
That one is certainly weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I know it was on a stream somewhere, and it had to have been Battlefront because I haven't streamed anything else recently. As I'm just running around. I don't even know where you are. You're like somewhere. I should probably play the objective a little bit. Oh, okay. Yes, that was how he got the bikini on Leia. That's what it was. It was somehow a saliva-based thing. And
so,
boom, die. Ah.
I shot. Playing other stuff lately.
Mm-hmm.
I have been playing my Shadows of the Empire on the computer.
Yes. Which, I don't know, with me not being a PC gamer, I envy that, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but I'm still not gonna. You know? Yeah.
It's pretty awesome, though. There is a distinct difference between the PC and the N64 that I was not aware of.
Huh.
Specifically, all the cutscenes. You actually get motion video cutscenes with these, whereas the cutscenes for the N64 is more like a motion comic type of thing.
Interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Movements, but yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch
most part, it's like a
those.
single image.
Sweet. Yeah, we've been talking about
It's,
doing a retrospective for those who are listening, who are like, Shadows of the Empire, how is this appropriate? We've been talking about doing a retrospective on the
the
fact that it's
20th
the anniversary. We just keep not doing it.
Yeah, we've just been so busy lately, but
There's just
I
too
have
much
had
else
some time
going
to
on.
play it. It's actually a
Oh,
short
nice.
game
I just-
from what I'm looking at.
We want to talk about truth in advertising. I was just killed by someone whose name was Jack in Hoff. So Jack in Hoff just killed me. Wait, no, wait. I was going to say it's truth in advertising because he was jacking off, not truth in advertising because jacking off just killed me. No, I think I fucked that up somewhere. I was trying to make a joke at his expense, and somehow it came out at my expense first. That was not what I intended.
Maybe that's his name, though. You were killed by that.
Yeah, his name is Jack Inhofe. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm really just not playing well, but I'm still... Wow. I'm having some serious lag issues or something because I'm walking about, 5 steps forward, and I'm either coming to a dead stop or I'm bouncing back 2 feet and then getting to move forward again. This is why when we get the new house set up, one of the first things we're going to do is get the internet connection set up and up the speed. We're going to get rid of our landline and use that extra cash to up the speed because I've got what used to be the top speed for AT&T Uverse, but it's not the top speed anymore. Orbital strike!
I would suggest... I dislike Comcast, but I do have super fast email through their blast package, which is just like basic cable and all the internet.
Huh. Yeah, we looked at Comcast. We're kind of like, we don't know if we want to get into that mess with Comcast, but we know that Charter Spectrum doesn't apply to that area, and I've never really had issues, broadly speaking, with AT&T or the AT&T customer service. So I'm kind of like, I'll stick with them to start with and just kind of see how it goes. Had the question. Well, I guess 2 things from Comps and Roberts. One being, just pick one, like a company to go after, like how Jon Stewart went after Arby's for years. True, yeah, I used to love his Arby's thing. It's kind of true. Again, especially to someone who's lactose intolerant, be careful with them fries at Arby's. But he says, should find a way to stream the N64 pod racing game. That thing was balls to the wall fun. Well, I will tell you that I believe, and I'd have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure that while the original Episode 1 racer is not available for PS4, for instance, so that I could stream it, I'm pretty sure Racer's Revenge was recently released.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, and is that one that came when you bought the Darth Vader PS4?
Yes, that is correct.
So there you go. So in theory, we could do some Racer Revenge. We just couldn't do Episode 1 Racer from the N64. Wow. I'm just running around doing nothing. I'm literally just kind of like, keep running and don't run into a tree, Hoss. And that's the only thing that I'm doing. Got killed by Shadowhunter behind me. I don't know where I am on my challenge either, because I've killed like maybe 1 person. Oh no, 4 people with a shock blaster. That's how much I've been paying attention. There we go. And we're running around. Here we go. And. Nope. Alright. So I've gotten a couple of opinions. Maybe the folks in the chat will have an opinion, because hopefully those who are watching this stream may also watch some of the other videos on it. And I'd be interested in your thoughts, Michael, in setting up the Star Wars room, which is probably going to double as an office and probably going to be where I record from for everything but streams once we move, right?
That's what I got going on. I call mine the toy room.
The toy room. So once I do that, I've got a wall behind me when I do that. That's going to be about 11 feet across, like 10 to 11 feet. I've got basically about 4 to 5 feet of Star Wars home video shelves, which right now is what's behind me when I do from the Star Wars home video library, but you can see bare wall on either side, but it's an appropriate type of material on the shelves, right? The other option, though, is I've got about 9 to 10 feet of Star Wars bookshelves that are chock full, which could also go along that wall instead, where there would be a full background, and it's still Star Wars related, but it's the books, not necessarily home video, which would fit the vlog, but wouldn't necessarily fit the home video series. I'm trying to decide which I want to put against that wall. Right now I'm leaning toward the books, and that seems to be what most of the people who've offered opinions so far have said, that they rather see like a full background of something Star Wars rather than partial, even if it's books instead of home video when I'm talking home videos. What do you think? Is it more about the look and having it across the entire screen, or should it be something like, should I do home video because I do more videos on that? And you in the chat, I'm curious of what you think as well, because you guys may be the ones watching it.
Is it possible to, I mean, not completely obviously, but to do both? Maybe do the home video, but maybe also do some of the books as well?
Not really, because whichever collection doesn't wind up in that room, because I want to keep them together, because like the home video stuff is in a certain order. The books are in chronological order with the exception of canon, which is its own little section that's in chronological order.
Yes, that's why I didn't know if maybe you could do the... I didn't know if you could possibly do the home video collection and then also, like, say, canon book, but I know there's not quite that many yet. So.
It's the concern, I guess, would be in trying to do that is, which it's not even, as far as I can tell, I'm going to have to do some measuring when I actually get back in there again. But from what I can tell, I'm not even going to be able to have both collections in the same room because of space considerations. Not just against the same wall so that one's the background, but literally one of the collections will probably be along the wall in the bedroom instead. And I'm leaning toward that being home video because it takes up less space. But I don't know. And Comster Roberts tossed out, I believe it was, tossed out books for sure. So the idea that the books would make the better background. So far it's pretty much unanimous. If choosing one or the other, you would say that ideally a little bit of both might even make sense if there was a way to work that out. I guess it depends on how I set up my recording.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, cool. Like I said, it's really going to be more toward how the seeing in the room and seeing what you are able to do. I mean, I don't think all books are a bad choice by any means, but I think that.
And you've got, and said hello, Mohammed, and JL in the chat. Your setup is basically, there's not really necessarily a defined delineation of any one particular thing. Your background is essentially just Star Wars in general and whatever you feel is interesting to put up there, right? Like, is there a purpose to the specific thing right behind you in your room? Because I've only seen it the few times we've done when we've recorded for the episodes and we turn on the Skype video feature.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, mine is, parts of my collection. I consider my collection as one whole thing, regardless of what it is. I do have now, here's the funny thing. I do have books in there, but you can't see them for all the other stuff. My biggest problem right now is I need to put a lot of shelving up and stuff like that because there's so much of my collection that is actually packed away right now. I don't have any way of displaying it at the moment. I have some shelves that I've been meaning to put up. I just have not done it yet.
Gotcha. And that's my concern now is, I want to make sure that those all stay up, but at the same time, I've thought about taking some things and just starting to pack them away and just having them, but not having them displayed. But it's kind of one of those, if it's a collection, I'm not sure what purpose it serves if I do pack them away. Like, there was a point where I thought about taking the entire Legends book collection and packing it away so that only canon was sitting on the shelves because that was what would still grow. And I finally decided that's way too many books to do that. I mean, I've cataloged, as I was taking them down from the shelves, I've cataloged all the different Star Wars books that I took down and digest-sized comics that I've taken down. I haven't even touched the comics that are in my long boxes, but I've got about 600 or so things now cataloged on an Excel spreadsheet, 500 and something which are books, almost 600, and about, I forget, was it like 80-something? I posted on the Timelines page, like 80-something maybe that were signed or something. So, I mean, a collection that big, I mean, I want to be able to display it, but it's a question of, one type of aesthetic for recording, the other type of aesthetic for, well, oh, hey, I just walked into your room. Wow, this is nice, Those aren't necessarily the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why with me, I mean, my stuff, if you see, I have my bobbleheads in with my action figures, in with what other little tchotchkes I've got going on.
Tchotchkes?
Yeah, that's a word use. A word my wife uses to describe some of the stuff.
A wife your word
I'm
uses?
just like, all right, I'll go with it. Yeah. I'm like, I'll go with that, I suppose. But just, I mean, there's Star Wars, all sorts of different little things for Star Wars. Especially, one thing I really enjoy is a lot of the Japanese stuff. Because they've got a lot of cool stuff, but they've also got,
Rebel Y-Wings inbound.
oh.
We're screwed.
I was in a weird spot there. Accidentally hit I was trying to throw my imploder. Instead, I accidentally hit my my jetpack. So then I thought, well, I'm up in the air. I'm going to drop my imploder anyways. And then I managed to do so with and land right back down on it.
Oh, nasty. Let's get to the quick questions. So first, hello, Zelda. Zelda fan is in here. And JL is suggesting back up all your Star Wars DVDs and Blu-rays. I'm finding that because I have so many of them, and because I don't expect to lose the ability to play them anytime soon, I haven't been doing any backing up of those, unless I need to do a digital pull so I can pull something and use it as a clip from the Star Wars Home Video Library. But I have gone through and digitized all of my Star Wars VHS material. And I mean, I'm talking, if this particular VHS has a different advertisement on it than these others, I'm going to digitize the advertisement to make sure I've got it. So that basically I can stick those away and not touch them. I'd like to do that with my Betamax tapes, but I don't have a Betamax player at this point, though I would like to get one. And then if I'm going to go that route, I need to get a Laserdisc player and do the same thing, get a CED player and do the same thing for that as well. It's just that right now, with everything else going on, that's been pretty low on the totem pole of priorities of things to wind up picking up. Was that culturally insensitive saying totem pole? Since I'm not Native American? Just wondering. Sensitivity training for you, my son. Wouldn't it be great if you had a 3D camera and I could point at the screen and the finger would be sticking out at people? Yeah, that was weird. So one of the first times I've ever pointed at the camera, and I'm like, ooh, it's different depth if you got some depth perception. There we go.
So
depth perception. How much depth do you think candidates have?
So talking about the home video stuff, I actually lately I've been checking out. There's a thrift store walking distance from my job, so sometimes I'll swing over there after work, and I actually just picked up the other day I showed you the ones that I found, but now I just saw they're like the Fox, or not the Fox editions of the Star Wars and Empire. The ones that say Fox Video on it, whereas the others say CBS Fox Video. Yeah. These are just have the red Fox Video.
Cool. Yeah, so you're looking at red Fox Video, so you're looking at basically 1992-ish then, because I think 1990 was still CBS Fox. Then it jumps and says Fox. Yeah, it's 1990 is CBS Fox, 1992 is Fox Video if you compare the two bricks, the two original box sets. Cool. Yeah, it's funny to think of that because when I think about it, because my first big box set was the one from I'm trying to make sure I'm catching everything in the chat. The last thing that I was where were we going with that? Oh yes, the first thing, not the last thing. The first thing, the first time that I had them on home video purchased was 1992, and I had that pan and scan, full screen brick. And I had the Letterboxd Collector's Edition from the Lucasfilm Company store. And not because I had any access to the store, they just had a little, I don't know, I must have bought something that had a little flyer in it. You could order it by phone with a credit card, with my mom's credit card, as the case may be. But I think, sorry! So because that's my frame of reference, I think of the ones before there were box sets as... those are the vintage ones, right? So 1982 2 for A New Hope, and then on upward until about 1991. I think those are the vintage versions. But now, I mean, we're talking VHS. As soon as you say VHS these days, pretty much anything VHS is vintage. I mean, even the 2000s box set is kind of vintage by the way people think of it now. Just like when you're looking at vintage figures, people are talking about Kenner, and yet people are like, these are the first from Hasbro. They're vintage.
Well done.
But I don't find that bothers me when it comes to home video nearly as much as it really, really bothers action figure collectors. How dare you call these vintage, you son of a bitch? You know, they're getting really pissed.
Yeah, I mean, it's... Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it goes.
But I'm one of those people who, you know, the memes come up and say, you know, I still think 1990 was 10 years ago, and I'm like, yeah. Yeah, that's me. The fact that it's been 15 years since 9/11 boggles my mind, so I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the weird thing is, like, there's something where somebody's like, well, I wasn't born yet, and I'm like, get out.
Like, go away. No, what's funny, I learned the other day because the people in the chat started asking, just by accident, I don't even remember why they were doing it, but people in the chat were asking each other's ages. I think because one of them was asking some questions, they were like, huh? But I know that I found that the people who watch the stream vary widely in age, and I find that interesting. I would have, I guess I always sort of assume that the audience that listens to anything that I do or watches anything that I'm doing is probably going to be about the same age as I am, and I don't know why I assume that, but it's wrong. It's way wrong. So we say XZ, let's see, saying that Benicio del Toro is rumored to be playing a senator who's secretly working for Snoke. Well, that would be interesting, having references to Snoke somewhere other than the sequel era. We know that he was around significantly before that, obviously, because he says, you know, in the novelization at least, you know, he watched the Clone Wars happen, its rise and fall, and the fall of the Republic and all that. But we have no context for him beyond The Force Awakens yet, which should be interesting. Zelda fan says, I was so young when I got the 1992 letterbox edition, I lost the book and their certificate. Oh, that sucks. He's talking about if you're familiar with the 1992 special letterbox edition or whatever you call it, that was put out the first time you could get the Star Wars film, the original trilogy, in widescreen in the United States on VHS, but not in the United States overall. That set had an abridged copy of George Lucas' The Creative Impulse in it, and it had a certificate of that's ostensibly it's supposed to be like a letter from Lucas, although, you know, pre-printed signature and all that kind of stuff, saying, you know, this is a special set, blah blah blah. I'll tell you, it's funny.
I'm only going to make like 19 more of these.
Yeah, I'm only going to make I'm going to make one film. Okay, 12. Okay, 9. Okay, I only ever meant 6. Okay, I meant that somebody else could make more than 6, but I won't. Okay. But anyway,
I'm going to keep making them and making them.
I'm going to keep... Somebody will make them. Where's the mouse?
I'm talking about his different editions.
Oh, yes, he's going to keep changing them. But no, I was thinking in terms of... what did I just do? Was that a... I don't know what on earth that was. I thought that I thought that... Why am I dropping it like an orbital strike or something? I don't know. I haven't played as 9-numb enough, I suppose. But I'm thinking of... and I'm missing bits and pieces as it goes along here. But it reminds me, that situation reminds me of when I purchased the Definitive Collection Laserdisc set. Which is the one in '93 that was basically the basis for the THX remastered editions everywhere else on every other medium, because it's when they were THX remastered. It's the basis of those 2006 and 2008 bonus discs that have the so-called unaltered cuts on them, which is not really unaltered. I was freaking out because it arrived and it's got the entire George Lucas The Creative Impulse book in it, but it didn't have a dust jacket, and I was freaking. Turns out the dust jacket was only on it if you bought it in Japan. Americans got it with no dust jacket for no apparent reason. I'm like, the hell? Why is that what you skimp on? I'm not going to give you the dust jacket. What? Doesn't make sense to me. All right, so let's see. We have questions about maps. A moment ago, I think from Compson Roberts. If they were making more, there's the daily challenge done. 15 shock blaster kills. I could switch to something else. If they were to make maps, more maps for Battlefront, which they may not. I would guess not. But if they were to make more maps for Battlefront based on The Force Awakens, aside from the ones we've got on Jakku so far, what other type of actual battle location maps would make sense for them to have been able to include for any given mode? What do you think?
Can you repeat that question?
Yep.
Sorry, there's a lot to that, and I'm trying to kill somebody.
You're actually paying attention to the game?
Yeah,
That's
I know,
why I
right?
suck right now. Oh, and I didn't switch guns either. Oh, shit. No, the question was basically if they, you know how they've already got the Jakku, Battle of Jakku DLC that was free, and it included
Right.
the whatchamacallit, it already included the few maps that we got on Jakku. Just were there other locations in The Force Awakens that would have made sense to perhaps do battle maps of some kind for this game, and if there were particular modes that they would necessarily fit? And before he answers that, XZ, I know I've answered that question from you on at least one, if not two streams before. So I'm going to try to hit the new stuff if at all possible. If we got the time, we'll circle back to it. Okay.
So, well, I mean, we only have, I say only, it's pretty good for what we have, but we have 4 different planets that we can choose from. Starkiller Base being one, of course, Jakku being one, and then,
Dakar.
what was it? Takodana. There we
Takodana.
go. And then, whatever I can't remember the planet from the Elenium system.
Right, that's Dakar. It's either Kadar or Dakar. I always get it confused. Either D''QAR or Q''DAR. I think it's Dakar.
Now, I think that one would be kind of interesting because of how it's set up and everything. That there's like a lot of vines, and it's not so much just like jungle, but it's almost like whereas this is more wooded, it's more just like vine growth and stuff like that. They're actually underground, so a lot of it could essentially be like cave systems. A lot of growth and stuff like that. That could be very interesting. Of course, Starkiller Base, I think it could be a good one, and being able to use like the speeder chase scene, for example, the little that we got from that as reference as well, could make that kind of fun, especially for something larger like Walker Assault. And then also, let's see, there's Jakku. I think that I feel like we've basically done as much as we can do with Jakku. Maybe if we did a Nema outpost, that would be neat. Especially if like they did it like a smaller map for Nema outpost, that would be fun.
That'd be cool. Because right now we have just the Badlands and the Graveyard. We don't really have anything that's a populated area at all.
Yeah. And Takodana, I don't think that Takodana would be necessarily different enough from Indoor to be worth doing. However, doing maybe a small Maz's Castle map would be fun.
Cool. See, I would say, I do think that Maz, something, I don't know if Maz's Castle itself, just because I'm kind of like, well, where would Maz be? And like, where would you be fighting in the cantina? But we saw we already saw that there's all the lower levels and stuff, like where Rey goes and she finds the lightsaber and all that. So there's all kinds of possibilities, I would say, with something on the castle grounds or something like connected to it. And then, but I agree that outside of it, it would be somewhat similar. I would like to see like a space battle over Starkiller Base. I think Starkiller Base in and of itself would be a bit too much like Hoth. And I don't know that you could do much on Dakar. I'm wondering if they would, like, would they... like the Battle of Jakku, they added in and said, okay, it's because in this era there was a Battle of Jakku, right? I'm wondering if they would say, no, somebody's playing as Vader and just standing there. There you go, Sparky. How's about your move? Now I'm going to die, but still. But I'm wondering if, and it does have the point, Jakku was, different enough from Tatooine, but theoretically you could have argued in the beginning that it was very much like Tatooine. But I'm wondering,
I think Starkiller Base is different than Hoth because there's trees and stuff on Starkiller Base.
True.
I think that distinction is enough to be a different view.
That's true. That's true. I guess, I'm also thinking, in terms of if they wanted to keep it, and I'm just gonna get my thought out because I keep getting sidetracked by trying to actually kill something and sucking. I would say that I would find it interesting to see if, when they talk about how games need to be an authentic Star Wars experience, how are they defining that? Because to be able to play on the Jakku maps, we're not playing in the era of The Force Awakens, we're playing in the original trilogy era, and, it's because the Battle of Jakku is just a year after Return of the Jedi, and it makes sense with the characters and the stuff that we have, aside from Vader showing up and that sort of thing, right? And Boba Fett showing up. And Greedo showing up. And the Emperor showing up. So really all the heroes shouldn't be showing up on Jakku. But I'm wondering, because Dakar has been scouted but is not being used as a base yet, so it's basically being left alone, would they say, no, you can't do it, there shouldn't have been any battles there yet? Or Starkiller Base, no, it hadn't been built yet. And I'm curious to see if they built that into a planet or like terraform or how they built it. It wouldn't exist yet, so we couldn't use it. Like, where do they draw the line on what's authentic and what's not when it comes to what is chronologically appropriate versus does this exist somewhere in the time span? Like, they've said that they weren't going to do prequel maps right now for Battlefront. Is it because of the chronological setting? Or for some other reason that mixing them together would not be considered authentic? I mean, there's more to the decision-making process, I think, than just, hey, would this particular location be cool? Which is unfortunate. Let's see. A question I saw a minute ago from XZ that I actually think was something that was an interesting point that I've raised in comparison between The Force Awakens and Legends, and that is, he asked the question, is essentially the First Order similar to the Imperial Remnant? And I would argue, kind of, yeah, just in the background, kind of hiding out. The Imperial Remnant in Legends and the different things like Empire Reborn, Second Imperium, all of them basically were still active and visible, whereas the First Order, at least for a while, was not. It was acting and hiding as more of like a Cold War type of, falling to my death, a Cold War type of thing. But I do think that it's very similar in concept to the Imperial Remnant, broadly speaking. Let's see.
Well, thing too, you got to remember, like, there's a specific reason why everyone that you see in the First Order is in their like 20s to 30s.
Right. Yeah, they were raised in it and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. None of them are actually like leftovers from the Imperial. Thus, not being a remnant.
The idea is that there were some who were left over who sort of were the foundational people. And you had people coming from the centrist side of the Republic for those who, like, essentially defect. But you wind up essentially with this new generation being the primary officers and movers and shakers, mainly thanks to, was it Brandeis was his first name? The other Hux, like not General Hux out of the movie, but his dad who appears in The Secret Academy, which is one of the, what do they call it, Soldier for the Empire. It was not Soldier for the Empire. Shit, I'm forgetting the name. The Zara Leonis books by Jason Fry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which are called
something.
Which are called
something of the Empire.
That's Servants of the Empire. I was thinking Soldier for the Empire, but that was the first Dark Forces graphic novel with Kyle Katarn. All right. So I should pay at least a little. Been very much not paying attention, kind of thinking, what mode are we playing again? But there's so many things zipping by in the chat that it's just... Say what?
I said
what?
Jason Fry actually wrote that one as well, didn't he? That
Wrote
Dark
what?
Forces novel you were mentioning? The Dark Forces novel.
No, the Dark Forces novel was William C. Dietz. Dietz
Okay, I
wrote
was
all
thinking
the Dark
he wrote
Forces
one of
novels. Jason Fry wasn't writing Star Wars at that time. This is like early 90s, like 94, 95-ish, I think.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, Fry, I think he started into the Star Wars writing, I think it's less than a decade ago. Maybe like at a decade ago, but not in the 90s as I recall. At least not on the full-size things. Whew, okay, let's see. Holy crap. I'm going to try to start catching up with the chat thing. All right, so I've missed a bunch in the chat, so if you've said something or asked a question that I haven't seen or we haven't answered, you might want to repost it because stuff is zipping by. I'm going to kind of step back from the play here to try to hit some. Let's see. When would it be possible to do some missions? I have no idea, honestly, at this point, because this week and next week are like completely packed, and I'm not sure when that would be. I probably want to play with somebody before we do a stream with it, but we may be able to try one at some point. So just let me know, and you might want to send me a message on PSN reminding me of which name is which PSN name is yours, Cypher. When is the 40th anniversary of Star Wars? Isn't
that next year?
That's next year. Yeah, it's 2017.
Next year, yeah.
Although technically, if you want to talk about Star Wars as a franchise, the novelization dropped in December of '76. So technically, this December is the 40th anniversary of Star Wars at all. The 40th anniversary of the first film is next year. Yep. Okay. Cool. Gotcha. That helped. I was about to say, send me a message that tells me, like anybody could just send a message and say the same thing. So that is Liam. Awesome. Gary Oldman as General Hux Sr. and Willem Dafoe as Cad Bane. Thoughts? I don't think I don't think we're ever going to see Hux Sr., so I'm not sure it's going to be an issue. Willem Dafoe as Cad Bane. I don't know. Willem Dafoe can be good in some things, but I guess he's kind of like that. But I don't know, Willem Dafoe. I hear Willem Dafoe, and I think like Gary Busey light. Like, dude's nuts. I don't know if he is nuts, but he always strikes me as like broken in the brain. You know what I mean? And yes, JL, I'm playing as always on a PS4.
Interesting roles.
So what do you think? So Hux Sr., Gary Oldman, Cad Bane, Willem Dafoe. What do you think? Oh, hey, I could actually be doing damage to the freaking AT.
It's hard to say with the... I don't know. I don't know about Gary Oldman, but that's... I don't know, man. I don't know.
Okay. So the answer is...
Just because...
We're going to lose, and partly because I haven't been paying attention. My fault, team. My fault. Usually I'm actually... paying attention, and yet still not lowest on the scoreboard. So what does that say for the 4 people beneath me that I wasn't the bottom and I wasn't paying attention? Just saying.
They're new?
Yeah. Best Spider-Man, Tom Holland. I found Tom Holland to be an interesting choice as Spider-Man. I finally saw Captain America Civil War yesterday with my wife. He's an interesting decision.
I enjoyed it.
It's almost like let's do a super, super young Peter Parker, because if we don't, we can't have the super young Aunt May, and we wouldn't want Tony Stark hitting on an old lady. It's almost like, because he's real dang young, but I think, it worked well enough.
I think was for the majority of his run.
Yeah, I want to see more of Spider-Man before I'm able to make that type of call. I definitely think that I think Maguire nailed it more than more than Garfield, but I think Holland feels like a fresh take on it. You want to switch to a different mode that doesn't require me to think as much?
Sure.
I got claim 20 pods as a challenge. You do some pod grab, or what do you have? Like, do you have any challenges that require a specific map or a specific mode?
The only thing I'm seeing right now is destroy 10 TIE fighters. So.
Oh, and I can't do Fighter Squadron because
really.
I'll be. I mean, we could try. Let's try one match of Fighter Squadron so people can see how completely screwed Fighter Squadron is for me when I'm streaming. Because I need kills with TIE fighters too, I think, but No. Okay, so what you guys are about to see is the god-awful fighter squadron that happens when I'm trying to stream, because it's trying to do the live stuff for this, or the internet connection for the game, is trying to stream at the same time on medium HD through a LAN connection, and now we've also got the party chat involved with it. You are going to see a hell of a lot of lag and why it's almost impossible to play Fighter Squadron like this. Let's see. Let's see. And what you didn't think that old lady May in the Tobey Maguire ones was hot? You ageist. That is a thing now, right? Ageism.
You're cutting up so bad right now.
Oh, that's not good. That's probably, hopefully that's just between you and I know that happens sometimes. Hey, KJR! Hang on, let me cover up the microphone. Hey, KJR says, I didn't answer your question a second ago. How about you type it all in fucking caps? Awesome! Yes, I have the season pass. You would have just seen it on the screen a second ago. Damn. He didn't answer my question, so I'm going to write it all in all caps really big. It's almost as annoying as, hey, I'm going to send you an invite, and if you didn't accept my invite, I'm going to send another one 30 seconds later, and then another one, and then another one, then another one. Damn, have some freaking common courtesy and be cordial about it, for frack's sake. Okay, let's see, Gary. Then go away, KJR, or be respectful. I'm not going to hang on to it and keep going after you, but when you act like a dick, I'm going to call it out, as those who watch the stream regularly know. Okay, so, let's see. Gary Busey as Road of the Hutt, as Stinky. What do you think? I think Gary Busey's probably a little too big to play Road of the Hutt. Although I'm sure he'd jump into it with gusto, wouldn't he?
I gotta say, that was where I didn't have a problem with the Clone Wars film. It shouldn't have been a film. It should have been a television series.
I mean, it's designed to be. It was originally designed to be 4 episodes, and the Ahsoka introduction wasn't even meant to be part of that four episode arc. The Ahsoka thing was meant to be there with Hidden Enemy and Cat and Mouse.
Right. But where I didn't have a problem with the story, I did not care for Rhoda at all.
Yeah. I just didn't like the fact that everything had to have a nickname. Stinky, Sky Guy,
R2E,
yeah. All right, see, and you guys can see here in the stream, see how jerky it's almost impossible to get cha-ching, cha-ching. It's almost impossible to get a decent lock, because that's what's happening because of the connection. Constantly, the X-Wing is basically bouncing back and forth on the screen. Or juking back and forth, depending on what move I'm trying to have it do. It's really, really kind of screwy. Which is unfortunate, because I really love this mode. It's probably where I've spent the majority of my time. If it's one specific mode that I've played the most of, it's this. And I got to a point... I'm just going to crash real quick. I've got to a point where when I'm playing Fighter Squadron, I can usually tell right around the time that it's going to have the power-up show up for the hero, and I'll have matches where I'll be like the Millennium Falcon, well, usually once for Millennium Falcon, but I'll be like Slave 1 twice, that dies faster, rather than constantly being, the default ships. But it's just, when streaming, it is just a mess to try. I mean, look at this shit. It's a mess to try to do any kind of streaming when playing Fighter Squadron for me. Maybe once I get the new internet connection, once we move and we're on a higher speed connection, get rid of the landline so we can put the money towards something else. But I mean, at the time that I got this connection, which was about a year ago, year and a half ago at most, this was the fastest speed that AT&T Uverse made available. So it's kind of kind of stuck. Yeah, there you go. They're just micro jumps. That's exactly what it is. I'm jumping to hyperspace, doing those little quick micro jumps. Han Solo taught me that. You can do it in atmosphere. You can do it from stop and everything. Let's see. My first match on Battlefront says Cypher was player of the match. That's cool. Cool. I need to post that picture on Facebook probably. The last time I think it was that Michael and I were playing, I had one where all 3 of the images were me at the end. I was like, oh, goody. And it happens every once in a while. But given the fact that it was while streaming, I think it was, and sucking. I was like, hey, that's pretty impressive. Probably drop zone or something. Okay, here we go. And going through the clouds. I will say, I love the look of Fighter Squadron. I mean, I really, really like the look of it. It's just kind of a mess. Now here, I guess, is the question, or a question I would ask. Speaking of those, the question about the maps. Let's say they want to do a map over, I don't know, something like Starkiller Base, right? That's lovely and all, but would you suggest, or something like an asteroid field? Should they be producing Fighter Squadron maps on locations that don't have a corresponding set of ground maps?
Sure, why not?
So I'm just kind of thinking in terms, because it'd be cool to do, but I mean, they talk about, this location or this planet, and here's all the maps on this planet. I almost feel like if they did that, there'd be people griping, why doesn't this one have a land-based thing? Kind of like the same thing where I'm like, well, I was bothered by the fact that there aren't any large maps or Fighter Squadron maps if you look at, if you look at the Outer Rim DLC. Whereas, we know that they're going to be coming with the next DLC, the Bespin DLC, but with Outer Rim, you can't do that at all, and that still gave us multiple maps for the individual locations. So I'm wondering if there's be like, oh, they're just giving us one just because, asteroid fields are easy or something like that. You know what I mean? Like there would be a reason to complain no matter what it is, essentially. I'm going to jump out of this because that's a mess for streaming.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where, I mean, they could, but it's like, if you do, you say, hey, you wanted space battles, we gave you space battles. So I think that it would probably be a smart move, and I actually don't feel like there would be much complaining. But then again, a lot of people would probably go, oh, it's too little too late. That's probably what you would.
Yeah, you probably get a lot of that. Other thing I guess that pops up would be this question of, well, we are going to get a Death Star DLC. Would the Death Star DLC, because so far they've been basically focusing on this idea, there's no space battles, it's all atmosphere. So with the Death Star DLC, should we expect to have Fighter Squadron maps? And if so, does that mean it has to be very surface level of the Death Star in order to fit what they've told us before? Or is it looking like they're probably just going to toss out the window their thing about, there won't be space battles, and they'll have at least space battles for the Death Star DLC, but everything else in atmosphere? It just kind of depends on, I would think it just kind of depends on the, who's in charge and and the decision-making process on that end. But they have said not space, though. Uh-oh, Michael, did I lose you?
You there?
No, there he is. Hello?
Sorry. Yeah, I think
what
having
happened?
Some connection issues.
Okay, I basically asked on the Death Star, would it be breaking their word, essentially, with them having already said that they weren't going to do space maps, that it was going to be in atmosphere? Would it be an issue of them breaking their word if they were to in turn say, okay, well, we're going to have it on the Death Star DLC, we'll have a space battle, as opposed to it being close enough to the Death Star that they could claim that it's kind of like being in atmosphere? Like, do you think they're really worried about keeping with what they're saying, or are they just kind of answering off the cuff for whatever's right at the time and kind of pulling a Lucas in a sense? Like, when they say that, should we take their word for it, or just say, okay, well, right now it may have been true, but hell if we know what's going to happen a month from now?
No, I don't think that we should take their word whatsoever, because they also said no microtransactions.
And here we go. It's not a microtransaction.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It is too.
It's not a microtransaction.
It's totally a microtransaction.
It's treated as a piece of DLC. It's not built into the game itself. It's not a transaction in the game, and it's not tiny. It's for a bunch of stuff for like $20. That's not micro, unless, well, okay, if you're Trump or something, that's micro.
It's still the exact same thing of what people did not want, and they said it may not fall under. I mean, which I'm curious as to what you could throw in as micro, like the exact definition of a microtransaction. But point being, the problem that people have with the microtransactions that people were concerned with, it does exactly what they said they would not do, which is basically, hey, spend real money to get weapons instead of having to unlock them in the game. And they said they would not do that, and they did.
They would not. Now, did they say, and maybe they just didn't clarify, but the context of that, was it that you won't be able to unlock stuff early through that, or that there wouldn't be exclusive stuff that would cost money? Like, was there any kind of caveat or clarity to that statement? Because that's a pretty broad statement if they simply said, we just won't be able to pay for weapons.
It's been a while. I'll have to go back and specifically see, but the way that I recall is that, you know, it's essentially saying pay to unlock stuff that, instead of having to do it versus like unique. Because the thing is, with the DLC, that's the only way that you can get some of the HUT contract weapons, correct?
Right.
So
some
I
of them,
think it's,
yes. I forget how many. It's like half or something, half or a little more than half of the HUT contracts are DLC only.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they
and you know you wouldn't be griping if it was emotes instead of guns.
Oh no, I wouldn't give a shit about that because that has no in-game effect.
Yeah, it's all that's just. You're telling me that it has no effect when I do this. The you're telling me it has no effect. You're telling me that doesn't intimidate the other side when I act like a Tusken Raider. I am amazed. I am truly amazed. So folks, for those who are in the chat who are like, what the heck are they talking about? So basically, with no fanfare whatsoever, EA released, I want to say it was back in like, what the heck? I'm stuck on the geometry. I think it was back in March. They basically released a thing that was, they call it the Ultimate Unlock Pack. And what you've got is you pay $20.
Something.
Ultimate Unlock, I think, or Ultimate Upgrade Pack is what it was. You pay $20, and what it does is, no matter where you are in the progression of the game, it unlocks all. What do you? Sucks to be that guy, because he just died to me, and I was talking and facing the other direction. It unlocks all of the regular weapons, so not the HUT contract weapons, but the regular weapons, and it unlocks all of the star cards. Again, the regular ones, not the HUT contract ones, and it gives you the upgraded version of every star card without you having to unlock them in game at all, rather than paying, you know, however much per star card and then the 7,000 or whatever it is to upgrade each one, or paying however much per blaster. You're basically paying $20 in real cash to jump over having to rank up to unlock the ability to purchase them, and then having the money in credits to purchase them. Yeah, so it's taking away some of the cost of in-game credits versus real money, but more importantly, what he's getting at is it jumps you over needing to take that time for that level of progression. My argument being it's not a microtransaction because of the size, because that's a lot of stuff. It's not picking and choosing. But I would also say that, I don't know, I feel like this game, the progression matters very, very little. So it's kind of like if you are unlocking those things, I'm not sure that it gives enough of an advantage to be an issue. Unlike in something like, I don't know, like if it was saying, okay, well, you pay us $20 and we're gonna rank you up to level 60 and give you a ton of credits, or something like that. That I think would be beyond the pale, you know. But it just depends on, you know, the issue here. Okay, let's see. And hello, Mr. Fabulous. There's your shout out. That's generally I'll try to notice people as they come in. We've been having the conversation. Usually it's easier for me to do that when it's just me on the stream and I'm not trying to remain coherent for the other person in the chat, which, you know, doesn't usually happen anyway, let alone when I'm playing a game. If you ever heard any of the raw, uncut Cloud City Casinos, you know coherency is not my strong suit when Michael and I are talking. Those raw recordings are a mess, but that's okay. let's see. So, cool. And Cypher's playing a match at the same time while watching this. Cool. And I'm following you, Morris. I'm following you, Mr. Morris Isley. Where are you going? Oh, you're dead, and I'm dead too. Thanks for running me into an enemy. Nice job.
Well, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to go defeat them.
Are force-choked Gamorreans okay?
Okay for what?
Okay for... Yeah, say okay for what?
I mean, for dinner? Or for... I mean, what?
Gamorrean.
Like,
It's what's for dinner. Gamorrean. The other white meat. I mean, it's pork,
like
right?
Green meat, but yeah.
Some form of pork. There we go. And JL, I know you said you were trying to get it's like a digital... Remind me again of what the situation was. We got a person he's actually on the stream frequently, JL, who's been trying to get Battlefront, but is having issues with actually getting it to allow him to purchase it. Like, I forget what the specific issue was, and I've been trying to think, kind of every time he brings it up, I try to brainstorm and think if there's anything that I could think of that's a way to work around the issue that he's having, but I have yet to figure out one. But it'd be nice to actually be able to solve an issue rather than, causing issues by playing horrible and people being like, "Oh my God, why are you doing that?"
We're actually not playing that bad. I was in the top 3 and you were just below me.
Really?
I mean, we were doing well in comparison to the rest of our team, of course.
Oh, well, that just means our team sucked. I mean, we were doing any good. Shoot. Oh, I'm on the way. I'm 20. No, I'm more like 18,000, a little over 18,000 XP away from hitting the next level. Yay. Because you know how that progression rewards you between 50 and 60. Oh, wait. It doesn't. Ah, extraction. Here we go.
Oh, hey, look, I got new shit.
What's your new shit?
20 hero hunt kills. Screw that noise.
You don't like hero hunt?
10 TIE fighters.
Cool.
Dude.
Oh yeah, hero hunt kills? That would
25.
suck. I'd pay the credits
dude.
and get rid of that sucker. Do we want to do extraction? Should we jump into this one, or I just want to make sure? I don't want to jump in if you're deciding on a different mode, possibly.
Well, I've got heavy blaster kills, so I'm gonna grab myself a heavy blaster. But other than that, what heavy blaster did I want to use? I can't remember.
I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead. So jump in or no? Or wait for a mode. Hola? Oh, I think I lost Michael again briefly.
There we go. Sorry,
There you
lost my battery.
Ah, so in a particular mode, or just go ahead into extraction?
Whatever you want to do, man.
I don't care. Tell you what, let's go ahead and extraction's fine. I'm fine. Let's see. So I guess JL, the question would be, hey Jackson, what is preventing you, if anything, from instead of buying the digital version, buying the physical one? Is it a matter of the price was different? Is it an availability thing? You just said they refunded the money from the digital that you got as the gift that didn't work, and now you're trying to just buy it regularly digitally, and that's not working. Is there anything blocking a physical purchase? Like, is there something causing issues with your... I guess it just depends on your platform, though, too. But what is there anything causing an issue with getting, like, the physical disc purchase? Like, is there an account issue also where even if you got it, you wouldn't be able to log in? Oh, okay. No more space for physical?
Like his hard drive may be full.
It says, well, he's trying to get it digitally, though. He says, no more space. And the chat is kind of slow because there's also a lag between when someone in the chat says something and I guess when I say something when the people in the chat can hear it. Okay, he says physical, so just no more physical space. I would almost say that maybe it's time for an exception if you're really wanting to do it. I mean, theoretically it's worthwhile. And in particular, though, if you find that that almost every, and this is what I do actually with my Xbox. I mean, if you find that most of the things you got are digital, that one or two that are physical, I always just keep one of them just stuck in the drive, even if I'm not going to be playing it, because hey, it's better than having to have a place to put the thing. But then again, I'm not big on like the collecting side of the game, so I don't tend to keep the packaging, and it just depends on what the game is. If I'm going to hang on to it, the packaging gets stuffed into a closet somewhere, if that. In Battlefront 2, you could go to the Rancor pit, and the Rancor was alive, and you could see Jabba himself on his dais, and like looking like a fat ass. And yeah, you can't hear. This is true. I have a Darth Vader 101.
Which I think is cool.
Saying I'm Canadian and I love this game. That is cool. I don't know what the Canadian has to do with loving the game, but that is cool. Let's see. Obi-Wan as a new hero for the DLC. What about Chewbacca? What about Lando? Well, we know that Lando's going to be... Lando is the hero for the Bespin DLC. It's Lando and Dengar are the two that are coming.
Oh my god! That was really freaky. I just turned into Mr. Fantastic, not even kidding. The game just had a glitch, and
you just
my
stretched?
entire body stretched out. Yes.
I've had that glitch with Destiny before. It's like, what in the hell? And yes, I also agree that Lando would have made sense for the Outer Rim DLC, but I guess if they were planning on doing Bespin, it made sense to make Lando the guy for Bespin.
Right.
And since this DLC...
I was just saying, yeah, but if you're doing Bespin, then that's where he needs to be.
Yeah. And since this one has the Sullust maps, it makes sense for Nine Numb because he's a Sullustan. Why is there noticeably less romance in the new canon? Where's the love? I actually think that there's been some romance, but you also...
I would actually say there's been more.
And you've got an actual Star Wars love story in essence. They call it Romeo and Juliet in Star Wars, but I think that is pejorative because Romeo and Juliet is a cautionary tale more than a love story. Anybody who says Romeo and Juliet's a love story has psychological issues, I think. But yeah, I mean, we've even got in the Legends continuity, you had times where it was like, and they started to kiss and fade out, or they started to kiss and the camera panned over to the fireplace kind of thing. And you had the assumed fact that... Yeah, you were assuming that there were some things that were happening because, like, people were having children. But in Lost Stars, you actually have what I think is the first or one of the first Star Wars sex scenes ever between these characters that you're getting to know, Thane and Sienna. I think it's supposed to be pronounced Sienna instead of Sienna or Sierra, it's
they give a pronunciation for it, but I can't remember.
I think it's supposed to be Sienna, not Sienna. Like, yeah, because I know it says rhymes with, and I think it was rhymes with something that was like I-enna, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Wow, we just got our butts kicked on Extraction real fast. Although I was number 2 and I was barely paying attention, so yeah, that explains it. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, the thing is, though, Claudia Gray actually said that she sort of fought for the sex scenes. Or, I mean, you know, obviously
for that one scene,
yeah. But the whole, right.
I mean, it was an important moment for the characters that made sense to have in it. It's just interesting that they didn't do the pan away as much, that they actually played into it. And I think part of that is it's also the young adult target audience. I don't know if interestingly enough, I don't think you'd see that necessarily in the more of the adult novels, because the adult novels are like, I mean, that's just, I mean, it's like, if you do a love story as a movie, some of the young adult tropes that you get out of something like Twilight aren't going to show up in something for adults, even though they may happen to adults too, and it makes sense in an adult relationship too, but it doesn't need to be a storytelling beat, I would assume, essentially. All right, so we got the question here from Stuff and Nonsense asking, Obi-Wan for Death Star. Like, should Obi-Wan be the hero for that? And no, I can't read the sex scene from the book right now. I'm playing a game. Although that would be a hell of a dramatic reading, wouldn't it? And she asked, is that a lightsaber in your pocket? It's funny, though, because, again, kind of going back to my own experiences, not personal, my own Star Wars experiences. In 2002, when my team and I, led by me and Chris Hannell, did Second Strike, the first Star Wars, serious Star Wars fan audio drama released online back in December of 2002. When we did that, it had very dark themes, very gritty themes, which was something Star Wars really wasn't doing at the time and really hadn't done much at all. So because of that, it was kind of edgy for the time and everything. We were all, the whole point was to make a gritty war drama when there hadn't been many, and to show that it made sense for Star Wars, which is kind of what Rogue One is doing now. But then soon you had stuff like, the Clone Wars era where the novels got very dark, even though the show didn't. What strikes me is that it was kind of the same way with the sexual content, because we have a character who is captured and we see that we don't see a rape, but we see that she has been, and her mental state is significantly affected by it. And it's not pretty, the situation this character is left in. And that was something that Star Wars tried to stay away from. And then you got hints of it in, I guess it was Shatterpoint. There were hints that Depa Billaba might have been raped. And it was just sort of they just weren't touching certain topics, and it took them a while to kind of broach that. And I think it's kind of the same thing here with the actual, the sexual content, that it's been hinted at, but it's been a long time. And again, Americans being as prudish as we are compared to other nations, it makes sense that something like graphic violence and even rape, which is a form of graphic violence but mixed with sex, that sex in and of itself would be the last thing to wind up showing up within Star Wars after those others, because there's such a reluctance to bring it into the universe, so to speak. And was there nudity in the audio drama? You can imagine them all naked if you want. Although I'm not sure you'd want to, because in that one I played the lead Jaren Balkan, so I'm not sure you'd want to imagine hearing my voice so much on podcasts and on the stream. You'd probably picture me as Jaren, and that's bad enough as it is. You definitely don't want to picture me as naked Jaren running around, especially since there's a lot of running and action sequences. You wouldn't want to get... I don't know. It's the same thing. Why would you not want to see it as animation? Because you wouldn't want the dangle physics. They talk about the boob physics in video games and the whole Street Fighter V controversy. You wouldn't want the dangle physics for that sort of thing. Too much information?
I think so.
Pause. Let's see. Which console am I using? I am using PS4 because I'm streaming directly to YouTube. I would like to stream my Xbox One directly to YouTube, but there's not a native way to do it that I know of, so I have not. Unfortunately. Let's see. Everyone beats their lightsabers while Nathan reads a sex scene in the book, and they get their hands cut off.
Wow.
Wow. That's... Good night, folks.
Come on, man. This is a family show.
Nah, the podcast is a family show. I cuss like crazy on here. And it always is sad when... or not sad. Sad's not the right word to look for. I'm always kind of because sometimes I'll have very, very young people watching the stream who will come in and specifically ask, please, no cussing. And I'm like, that's not really the mood and atmosphere of the show. But that's okay.
Wow.
Yeah, imagine
heard
censor
of such
bars.
a thing. That's...
All right, we are defending. There we go, as my brain kind of gets caught up. All right. Yes, definitely imagine those censor bars. Please. Although we don't, America doesn't really do censor bars anymore. America does, America does more, Leia. America does more of we're going to blur this thing here.
Do not let the rebels get that shipment.
And if you notice, those are getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah. Well, that could mean that we're censoring less and less. It could mean something about the performer.
Yeah, that's true too.
Just saying. Wait a second. Why do they only censor this little piece of Congressman Wiener's tweet photos during the controversy? I don't understand.
Very good. Without their escort, the shipment will be...
And somewhere out there, a report is coming down about the topics of the stream, and Bill Clinton's like, I need to get in there and watch this. They're talking about wieners and stuff, and boobies. I don't care about that Battlefront, but ooh, baby. Let's see. What was said in the Clone Wars and the Thrawn trilogy doesn't fit the prequels. They've retconned some of it. And probably the biggest thing that is still a huge mess from the prequels that they need to retcon from the Thrawn trilogy was the dates. But that's actually something I was able to look into, and I forget. I want to say it was Lynn she had a conversation about it with. Was that they basically said that all the dates in Dark Force Rising that are like this PE, where there's dates relative to the beginning of the Empire, was just we have a date for a couple of those. They are still the same amount apart, even if it doesn't make sense to call it pre-Empire, so assume that all the dates and all the time spans relative to each other are all correct, and just match up the date for the two we know to the actual in-universe dates, and just let everything else fall in those relative time spans. So they did have a way to fix it. But yeah. But again, that's actually why the Clone Wars were off limits for the expanded universe of the Legends continuity for so long. Because Lucas made it off limits, and just a little bit that did touch on it wound up having some issues that had to be ironed out later. Same thing with the idea of before the new Jedi Order, they had limits on how far into the future they could go, and then Lucas said he wasn't doing any sequel trilogies, or he had never planned to do sequel trilogies, which is a line of bullshit. And they said, okay, well, if that's the case, then let's free up this sequel trilogy era, and they start producing stories set in that era. Yes. Did you... Michael, did you watch Clone Wars much?
Mm-hmm. I actually am going back through and watching it now.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did that before Force Awakens. I watched all the movies and cartoons in chronological order. But
did
Cops
you
and
not
Roberts.
care for Clone Wars?
Say what?
You didn't care for Clone Wars?
No, I liked Clone Wars. It's just the question. The first seasons were kind of rough. Before the time jump was kind of rough. But Cops and Roberts makes the point that Rush Clovis, yeah, he was sort of the Clinton of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually like him. I haven't, even the early stuff, initially I kind of had some issues with it, but I like him. I mean, I even like some of the earlier stuff. Now, the one thing I gotta say that's made me like them even more is watching them in chronological order. That is huge for me.
Yeah.
For instance, like Cut Up. You know, you learn about Cut Up in season 2, but he dies in season 1.
Yeah, you actually have some emotional draw. What the? Yep. So Rush Clovis as the Clinton character. I think that kind of works because every time he's working with Padme, he's like, hey, I'd like to talk about your platform, and by that I mean your bed. You know, I mean, he's constantly trying to get with Padme. He even has those moments where he's like talking to Anakin, and he knows there's something between them, but he's talking to Anakin, and he's like, so what is she? He's like, oh, well, she's just a friend. Oh, well, then you wouldn't mind me cutting in, if you know what I mean then, huh? You know? And just like, Rush Clovis, you're an ass. But, I don't know, I must say, the last episodes with Clovis, the Banking Clan episodes in Season 6, I came to really like him being there because of what it brought out in Anakin. I mean, Anakin... There are times when Anakin in the Clone Wars is an incredibly dull character. We know where he's going.
Really?
He can't develop all that much.
Way more interesting.
There are some times when he's interesting, and there are other times where you're just like, whatever, because there's only so much character development and movement they could do because you kind of know where he's going. But knowing where he's going, those flashes where you sort of see the dark side more, and the possessiveness with Padme, I think just enhances Revenge of the Sith, but also are some of the best moments for the character. I mean, they're not good, per se, but they're interesting and they're dramatic and dynamic. So, like, when he's beating the crap out of Clovis over Padme, I thought that was one of the highlights of Anakin's characterization throughout the entire series. Let's see, how much screen time should Vader have in Rogue One? Enough to fill whatever role he has in it. I mean, we really won't know until we actually see it, how much, you know, like what role. I would assume that he shouldn't have a huge role because you don't want to have him being thwarted at every step because you don't want to have him be a mustache-twirling villain like Grievous became with Clone Wars. Question... just kind of a generalized question. What do you think of the new Star Wars The Force Awakens? I loved it. It's my favorite Star Wars film now. In particular, I love the pacing that was brought to it and the dynamics between the characters and the fact that the actors playing the main characters, particularly Rey and Finn, seem like they really have a love and a joy for it, and it comes through on screen, as does J.J. Abrams. Michael, Force Awakens thoughts?
Yeah, it's pretty much just what you said. It's one I saw it 11 times in theater.
Holy
and
crap!
I don't. And the thing is, if you know me, you realize that that's even more insane than just normal. I don't. I went and saw Civil War, but that's it. You know, before that, the last film I saw in theater, I think, was Ant-Man.
Wow. So you like the Marvel stuff?
Theater.
Yeah, I don't tend to like going to the movie theater at all myself. Now, granted, that's because usually it's the idiots in the theater that just drive me nuts. But they've changed the atmosphere really a lot of the theater that I go to with some renovations, less seats, nicer seating, nicer setup. And I think that's had a psychological effect where the people who are usually being douchebags don't tend to be anymore, so the experience is better. But I would agree. So, yeah, I just think 11 times in the theater, I'm thinking, how often must he have been going? And holy crap, that costs a lot of money.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it costs a lot of money, absolutely.
Especially if you're buying drinks. We went to see Civil War, and we bought a meal, so to speak, a combo of nachos and a large drink, and got one more small drink, and it was $18. So.
Yeah, it's expensive, and I will say I pretty much got food and drinks every time.
Woo! Because you gotta have your drink to pretend you're choking on it and hide the tears whenever a certain person gets run through. If you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, when Finn gets sliced up the back, I was crying.
Oh yeah, that whole slice the back. Let's see.
You meant Han Solo.
Yes, of course. Let's see. Is Darth Vader? Whoa, missed. What was it?
Yes, Darth Vader.
Is Darth Vader going to be Hayden Christensen? I think is what it was, and I don't know.
No.
I don't think they'd be bringing Hayden
not.
Christensen back. It's going to be a dude in a suit, right?
The rumor is that it's WWE's Sheamus. Now I know some people may be like, "What?" But for what he needs to perform. As far as like being a big dude with stature that's going to be overdubbed by James Earl Jones, I think that he's probably a good fit.
Gotcha. Kill. Okay. Let's see. Question about the Beyond the Films music. For like when we ask the tough questions and all. I have no idea what music that is. That's something for Mark to answer. That's the cool thing. That's the best thing about Beyond. Well, not the best thing about Beyond the Films, but the best thing when I said yes, let's do Beyond the Films. And really, actually, what was supposed to be the yes to doing the EU review, and why it makes it easy for me to say yes to doing Cloud City Casino, and why it was for a long time an easy yes for Rebels Roundtable. I got to a point where my time wouldn't really permit me to do much in the way of editing, so it's sort of being able to be on but not be the editor. And so in the case of Beyond the Films, I mean, Mark edits all of that stuff unless there's a real time crunch. And even then, he has me just edit the discussion, and then he'll add in the musical bits because he has all that laid out basically in like a template file. So I really could not say. And in general, if you're going into someone else's stream and you're basically asking people to subscribe to your stream, especially if it's your first comment in the thing, that is kind of bad form. Just giving you the heads up if you care about decorum. Let's see. Okay, so I've answered all the questions that I see, but there's been a bunch that scrolled by that I can't see on the screen anymore. So, you know. One of these days I ought to just bust out my iPad and try to pull up the stream and so I can scroll through the comments. The problem is that's yet another thing streaming on this internet connection. And right now it's doing the force choke, just trying to play the game. As you can see, my feet bouncing back and forth. Okay, cargo's all right. Now let's actually play a little bit of objective. Okay, follow the car. Okay, follow cargo man. Oh no, dead. No, follow cargo man. Isn't Dengar a chump? We don't really know much about Dengar now, at least not in canon. I mean, Dengar was an interesting character arc in Legends because he was the guy who was kind of like the bounty hunter who gave it up in a sense and made good, and and the whole thing with was her name Manaru or something like that, the woman that he was with, and how he essentially became a friend of Boba Fett, and he had a role in saving Boba from the Sarlacc and helping him back to health. I liked that, but I found it didn't necessarily fit what I expected of.
I hated that, actually.
Really?
Because it made him such a pussy. Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, would you have expected him to be a pussy, though? I mean, I think that's what made it interesting. Was it? You got all these bounty hunters doing nothing but killing, and here's a guy, and you're like, oh, he's the gentle giant, you know?
But there's the fact that he's a bounty hunter, and like I said, gentle is not the term I would use. I just use kind of a bitch, you know? He
explains the bandages. Okay. And that is true. Brought up by Cops and Roberts. In Clone Wars, he falls off the train, which is true. Granted, I forget who he was up against. If he was up against the Keiju Warrior, or if he was up against Asajj. But I mean, seriously, if you're gonna fall from a train, you know there are wimpier people that could have kicked your butt. But then also,
oh yeah,
in the comics, yes, Chewie does throw him off a building, and just like picks him up and just bodily is like, whatever, dude, bye. And tosses him off a building. So I think that's in what is it called? Showdown on the Smuggler's Moon, I think was the name of that second. It's the second main ongoing Star Wars Marvel arc of the new Marvel series.
I don't pay attention to the arc names, but I know what you're talking about. Now, that's the thing is getting taken out by Asajj and Chewie. I think don't necessarily. Because didn't he get the one up on Chewie there for a little bit before it finally?
I think so. I think he got a little bit. Yeah, he did have Chewie at a disadvantage for a little bit. And to be fair, if we're talking about the films, Dengar does little to nothing, so there's not really much we could say. If we're talking films, I mean, really, when it comes down to it,
films, he doesn't even. I mean, in the films, he doesn't even so much as take a step.
Right.
So that.
I was just thinking, if you look at the films. And really kind of to a degree, if you look at the films and you look at Clone Wars, if one of the bounty hunters that we meet in The Empire Strikes Back is a bitch, it's got to be Boba Fett, because he gets whooped by Asajj and stuck inside a container to be given away as basically a mail order bride to the one guy. And in Return of the Jedi, he gets punked by Luke when he tries to wrap him up with the line. And Luke apparently cuts the line, and it's like cutting the ground under his feet, and he falls or something without it cutting his ankles or some shit that never really entirely made sense. And then he gets smacked in the jetpack by a half-blind guy and flies to his doom. So Boba Fett really, yeah, and maybe that's why Boba Fett has so much of a following. Like, it's people being like, Boba Fett is so awesome because of his armor, man. We got to rehabilitate his image so he's not quite as much of a bitch anymore. No.
Now the one place that I would give saying that Dengar's a bitch would be in Aftermath. That's probably the most bitch that they make.
I had almost forgotten he's even in Aftermath. That's how much of an impression that Aftermath made on me. Not just Dengar's part in Aftermath, but Aftermath in general. I try very hard to forget Aftermath existed because I don't think in sentence fragments, so it hurts my brain.
Oh my god.
Sorry, the writing of Aftermath pisses me off to no end.
It's a legit writing style.
I feel it's just a bad writing style. It's legit, sure. Just like
I disagree. I really like the writing style because I think it's a more, what's the word? It's a more fluid writing style for me, and that's.
It's a more grammarless writing style. It's a writing style that doesn't necessarily observe punctuation or grammar or proper tense, and that makes it more natural, which basically means because that's what I keep hearing as the excuse, it means that people have stopped understanding how to talk well when they're talking, therefore it's okay to do it when you're writing. That's not a good answer.
No, that's not correct, because here's the thing, it's not that, it's the way that he's doing it cannot. If you're going to actually write in like present tense like that, and especially like a limited present tense, you have to give the information as it's happening.
As it's being processed. Yeah.
Right. And things aren't processed in the same like grammar structure that we typically write in. So you have to, things will have to be more sentence fragment, but it's it's in the same exact way that you write scripts. Scripts aren't written any different than that. And
true, but you're not. But scripts aren't meant to be read as prose. Scripts are meant to be stage direction. And I get.
Yes,
I'm just busting his chops here. I know it's a style meant to like propel things forward, but I'm just like, I don't know. When we did the study thing and we took the prologue basically of the book, the stuff on Coruscant at the very beginning, and looked at that entire section and found that basically it was 1/3 sentence fragments, another third, or almost a third of sentences that began with prepositions or began with conjunction, or not began with like they were basically dependent clauses, but ones that at least began with a conjunction that is the way that people talk. And the other third were proper sentences. It blew my mind. It sounds great and fine whenever you're listening to it as an audiobook, but for those who have any kind of grammar mindset at all, it especially a teacher, it's like, oh my God, please kill me. The audiobook is much better if you don't like the guy's writing style. Let's see. Will you bother with the next 2 Aftermath books? I canceled my pre-order. Don't think I bother. Here's the thing. With me doing the Star Wars Timeline Gold, the most comprehensive Star Wars chronology available anywhere at StarWarsFanWars.com/timeline, with me working on that, I have to. I mean, every book gets summaries. Every book, I read it, I take the notes. And if there's events, 10 years ago this happened, or this person is this age, that kind of information goes into the timeline document. That's why it's like almost 3,000 pages total. Because of that, I have to read those. Thankfully, presumably, I get review copies from Del Rey most of the time. So, in theory, at least I won't be ordering it and buying a copy. The issue with that, though, is sometimes they send review copies, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's before release, sometimes it's after. It's usually about a month before, or it's about a month and a half before, and it's uncorrected proofs. But what I found was that I want to say Aftermath and all the other books, and that's from Disney Lucasfilm Press for the other ones, from Force Friday, they were so worried about spoilers, they didn't mail them out until after Force Friday. So I wound up with an extra copy of Aftermath because I'd already bought one, and then I basically used the other one as a giveaway. Well, I mean, it depends. Oh my God, I see it. I'm not sure how to respond to it. This is like the 3rd or 4th time Jackson has posted the same thing, so let me read it so he doesn't post it for like a 5th time. Does the scene in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen when Sam and Michaela are running in the desert remind you of when Rey and Finn are running on Jakku? My answer would be kind of, but so does every other scene running through the desert being attacked in an action movie. Half of the scenes, if you basically take the Jakku running and eventually winding up on the Millennium Falcon scene on Jakku, you could almost compare that to virtually any Michael Bay movie ever. And there would be a valid comparison there because it's run, excitement, action, quick cut, explosion. Basically.
And by that you mean any point in a Michael Bay film.
Right? Almost any point in a Michael Bay film, unless it's lingering on his current girlfriend in scantily clad clothing, or an underage person or almost underage person who is scantily clad. I guess it's not called scantily clad clothing, because it's the person that's clad, not the clothing. The clothing is what they are clad in. It's okay, Jax. I saw it come by, and I wasn't sure that there was a response to be made. I think I was seeing it as a statement as opposed to a question. I was like, oh my God, it's back again. But yeah, I think unless it's been phrased differently, I think I was missing the fact that was a question. Because it was cutting off, it cuts off the end of it when you try to put it in, and it's long enough, kind of like a text message. Alrighty. Oh, killed by your... Oh, I must have just... Did I die by falling? I've made that jump before. Okay, whatever. Well, he used a jump pack, so he could fall from an even higher height and be okay, but he didn't use a jump pack this time, so that miniature fall killed his ass. What? Let's see. Do you think the interludes in Aftermath were a Lucasfilm Story Group directive to blast some universe filler into the new canon.
Oh, I actually know the answer to that.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say I don't know if it was I think that's what it was needed for, but I don't know if the story group would have had forced it on him. What is the answer?
So the interludes were his way of pretty much interludes was all the information that they wanted him to have in the book. So pretty much anything that's sort of
relevant.
Well,
anything that has relevance or at all answers any questions that people who are picking up Aftermath actually wanted to know, as opposed to the characters that we've never met and never cared about, is crammed into interludes. But it was on purpose.
The exact same thing. So, but you could say that about Rebels. I mean, you could say that about anything where you bring in new characters. I don't think that's fair. Same thing with, you know, like, why do I care about
okay, wait. But you could say that about any characters, but you don't have the hype build-up. Like, Rebels was not hyped up as it's the first story set in a particular era, and do you want to know what happens after this film, etc., etc. You knew going into it was going to be original characters. The way they hyped Aftermath was it's the first novel set afterward. And they gave a little bit of background eventually, but their first hyping up until when the book blurb finally came out, and even the book blurb was very generic in Insider and elsewhere, they were hyping this up, making us feel as though this is going to be what tells us what's happening in the galaxy at large, what's happening with many of the main characters afterwards and so forth. Aftermath, until about the last month and a half to 2 months of its ad campaign to get us to buy it, was a complete bait and switch, which is probably why they changed it at the end to let us know, hey, this novel is not going to be what you guys think it is, because we gave him all this shit, apparently, we gave him all this shit to write about, and he decided to make it interludes and tell his own story that has nothing to do with what we wanted to tell him to write about, because he wants to set up that character from the movie, so, oh, shit. Yeah, it's different. That's what it seemed, because...
See,
if it had been his choice...
It's a little bit of...
Oh, God, you're killing me. That just makes me more pissed about Aftermath, because they gave him, include this, and he was like, fuck it, I'm going to do what I want to do, I'll make him interludes. I wonder if this guy didn't already have a 3-book contract, if they would have brought him back after he did something like that, because you know if it was a single book thing, it was like, I would like you to write a single book, I would like you to write a single book telling the backstory of how did okay. I got one for you here. I was thinking of an example and I had to stop because I was trying to kill somebody, so I need to get into one of these little spots. Hello, Zachary. Let's say you say, all right, I want you to write a comic series. We're going to call it Kanan the Last Padawan. And I want you to tell the story of how Kanan went from Caleb Doom around Order 66 to becoming Kanan Jarrus. That's a story we'd like you to tell. And instead you tell that as a flashback in issue number 3 for like 2 pages, and the rest of it is about how Kanan bought barbecue sauce for his bantha steaks. If you do something, or you even tell, okay, not to make an asshole type of comment. Let's say that's the story they want him to tell. He tells it in 2 pages in a flashback, and instead tells a story of Kanan Jarrus in the era of Rebels on Lothal with Ezra. Perfectly legitimate story, but not what they told him needed to be written. You'd be fired on the spot. Sorry, we gave you an assignment. It's too late for us to pull you because you've already written this draft and we're already through this many steps of the pitch process and the draft process and stuff, but screw you, you are never writing for us again. How does he not get that unless it's the fact that the guy's already got the treatments already and they don't want to besmirch the guy by pulling out after he had so much criticism on him in the first place? That boggles my mind that he could write something that he...
Okay, are you ready to calm down so I can explain this to you?
I will calm down. I'm hoping against hope that there is a rational explanation beyond the fact that the guy is just a bigger dickhead than I thought he was.
So here's the thing. They didn't tell him this is what that you need to write about per se. They gave him specific things that needed, the elements he has to hit. Those elements, if you look at it, because that's what they wanted. They wanted him to write a story about the galaxy at large. There's no way to do that otherwise. There's not. I mean, you cannot write a book that has a story, unless you're going to sit there and be hopping all over the damn galaxy, be like, oh, now we're going here, now we're going here, now we're going
Heaven
here.
forbid you
You're going to
world
get a very
build with an
disjointed-
epic spanning story that goes to multiple worlds to set things up in the era after Return of the Jedi. Nobody could do that. Oh shit, there was Heir to the Empire.
book.
My bad.
Heir to the Empire was not a good book, though. I know a lot of people are going to go, oh, it was not. It was not a good book.
I am with you on Zahn being terrible whenever you get to Allegiance and Choices of One, and how he turned all his characters into godlike characters, and Mary sued the heck out of them even though he didn't before. But the Thrawn trilogy? You're going to tell me that... Oh, now, please tell me you're not telling me you like Aftermath. The way it sounds based on the... I know your opinion on Aftermath. Aftermath is better. Oh, fur. I may have to drive up to Kennesaw and beat you senseless now.
I wouldn't suggest that. But
yeah, I'm a little too short for that.
Here's the thing.
Aren't you a little short for a beatdown? Yes, I am. I think we may have just hit the point where my brain exploded. This will be the stream that's remembered as the one where Nathan's brain was oozing out of his ears into his nice headset.
But you do remember that
grabbing
the
a drink.
whole point. If you break it down, the entire point of the Thrawn trilogy was about kidnapping the twins, right?
That wasn't the entire point. No.
Don't forget the Wookiee.
Okay, wait. You know why the entire point can't be about... Wait. The entire point was not about kidnapping the twins per se, because the twins weren't born until the last command. There's more to it than... I mean, that was the idea was getting a hold of Jedi Force Sabaoth, because that's what Sabaoth wanted, but Thrawn was about bringing down the New Republic and reuniting and essentially coming out of the shadows and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're making it a little bit more...
Yeah, but that's not the plot, though. That's not the plot. The plot was that. Yeah, those things happened, but that wasn't the plot.
You're oversimplifying the plot unless we're going to talk A plot, B plot, C plot, et cetera, to the Thrawn trilogy. But we're really getting far afield here, but... I don't know. You're blowing my mind.
Don't forget about Luke. Hey,
now, yeah, there were bad elements, absolutely.
Therefore, I spell it differently. There's so many bad elements. Oh,
but there's not bad to freaking Aftermath that's telling us stories about characters. Oh my God, Timon! Hi, I'm a teenager. I'm awesome. I'm gonna be in the Force Awakens, so I have got to be badass. So here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna pole vault. And I'm going to land on a ship, and as it's already in, like, the upper atmosphere or something, I'm going to crawl along the outside of it. And when that window opens, for some damn reason, or that hatch, I'm going to pull a stormtrooper out and make him fly through the air with one hand, and I'm going to climb inside. It reminds me of Spaceballs. That was pretty good for Rambo. It's such a poorly done novel, my God. But, okay, so to rewind, we can debate this all day, but to rewind, so basically what you're saying... with Aftermath, is that they gave him plot points that needed, or not plot points, they gave him information that needed to be relayed in some form. And rather than choosing to relay that information, am I locked in? Instead of relaying that in story form, which probably would have been what their intention was by saying, hey, make sure you hit these, because it's what every other Star Wars author does when given that sort of thing. Instead, he chose to tell his own story that was only marginally, if at all, related to that information, and relay that information in a series of interludes.
Oh, see, I disagree with that just because the main point that they needed was to show that the Empire itself was still going to be a force after... the Battle of Endor, and they show you exactly the and specifically that conflict shows Sloane and her.
They show you that through a bunch of meetings that never actually show, but only tell most everything. Fantastic.
You broke up there. I couldn't hear you.
They're basically doing the tell not show as opposed to show not tell, though. We don't see most of that. For the most part, the Imperial's part in the plot is to sit in a room and argue about it. We don't see the Empire's might beyond really the interludes and people talking about it in Aftermath. The idea was to set up the Empire as a continuing threat. Not really. I mean, you get much more of that in something that's more of like an Imperial Remnant driven thing.
See, I like it because you don't see the weaknesses through their actions, but you do through their pettiness and arguments and stuff. So it's kind of this sort of this duality of, oh hey, you know, we're still trying to show this force, because if you didn't have that, if you just say took that out, you'd go, oh wow, well the Empire still, you know, them destroying Endor, or not Endor, but the second Death Star, that did nothing. The Empire is still really powerful, and you know they're killing people on Coruscant and stuff. Now, granted, you could say, okay, we'll show some parts of some weaknesses, but like I said, I like them showing them as strong, but then actually talking about the weaknesses inside. To me, that's a little more interesting. It's kind of cooler, like I said, just to see that conflicting thing and say, oh, okay, they're not really as powerful as they're trying to show.
Okay, I'll leave it, but it's out of curiosity, do you happen to know where you would have heard or where you would have read the issue of how he approached those things that were asked of him to include? Do you recall the source on it, just in case I want to look deeper into it and go a little more gray?
I'm pretty sure he said that on his blog.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he did. When he was, I think it's the one discussing his writing style and all that, where he was basically just having to explain that. But like I said, it's the thing is, I think it comes down far more to the actual writing style of the book, and a lot of people expecting something, basically expecting a story with Luke Skywalker and Leia.
Yes.
But I knew months beforehand that was not going to be the case. I mean, that's
about 2 months, right? About 2 months when they changed their marketing structure, or they changed their marketing approach to it, right?
But they weren't really saying much before that, even. I mean, it's been pretty much since they were giving any information, they discussed that. So it was basically, hey, this is going to be the book that takes place after the Battle of Endor, and then they're like, but it's not going to be based around.
See, and it's the but. I don't know that the but ever really got out there. I think that was one of the things. I mean, for those who are curious, are like, what the heck are they? We've actually discussed this before, and we're still discussing. We're back to it and on a whole different angle to it. But Michael was actually on the episode of Star Wars Beyond the Films when we talked about this, and we had to get the elephants in the room out of the way: the writing style, the social media stuff around the same time, and the fact that there was a huge gap between, I would agree, between expectation and reality. And I would say I thought it was a fine book in and of itself. I was okay with it, but it wasn't what people expected. The writing style was horrific unless you're doing the unless you're listening to the audiobook, to me at least, because my grammar related mine. But I find it interesting, and I think it would be another point against it that would have been brought up at the time had I known it, that it's, I mean, that's just not the way a Star Wars book is usually written. Hey, here's a few things you got to do. Oh, you just hit them in sidebars, basically. I'm writing the essential guide to alien species, and I'm talking about guns the entire time, and I got sidebars about the aliens every once in a while. Huh?
But see, that's a different. See, I don't think that's a fair comparison, because you're being asked to tell a story, and they're saying, hey, just make sure you fill these elements. How they were done is totally different, as opposed to saying, you know, hey, you're writing a guide about this, and then you turn around and write another thing and say, but I included the guns. I'm
just thinking,
totally
if somebody
different.
says, I want you to include... Well, no, I'm going to stop, because it's just going to keep going and going, and I realize we were at an hour and 53 minutes, and usually after the 2-hour mark is where the stream starts to crap out on us. So I want to make sure that we're able to kind of wrap things up. But suffice to say, apparently quite a bit of some diverse opinions, definitely, or divergent opinions. It's not diverse if there's just two of us. Divergent opinions as it pertains to Chuck Wendig's Aftermath. And now we're in the aftermath of Aftermath. No. Woo! Okay. So, kind of getting back to gosh, getting back to the plans of the gaming side of things and whatnot. So we're definitely going to be talking some Shadows of the Empire soon on Cloud City Casino. We don't know when. If new news comes out between now and Thursday, we probably won't wind up talking about it again. I have, by the way, Cops and Robbers, I have no idea what Catalyst is, unless I've heard of it as a project described without a title. So you've got that coming up, of course, the Shadows of the Empire stuff, and of course we'll be talking about whatever news happens to be popping up. Now you said you've got Racer's Revenge, so that may be something to do some streams on at some point. You know, when Battlefront gets old, excuse me, when Battlefront gets older, then we could perhaps do some streaming with that. What other Star Wars games happen to have been in that bundle that might be something? I know Racer Revenge has at least, it should have a multiplayer, I would think, right?
Yeah, Bounty Hunter was in it, but no.
But that's no multiplayer.
Same thing with Super Star Wars.
Right.
The Starfighter game, Star Wars Starfighter.
Does that have multiplayer?
I can't. I'm pretty sure it does. Now I don't remember if it was Jedi Starfighter or just Starfighter, but one of those two is in it. And it seems like there was one more game, but I may be misremembering.
Gotcha. And I'm not gonna. I'm not sorry. We've had the same question come up about. I'm gonna exaggerate here and probably say about 10 to 15 times. It's probably more like 5 to 10. Which is, which female Star Wars character would you kiss? I'm not going there with a 10-foot pole. If for no other reason, then that's a mindset conversation my wife and I have had plenty of times about whether or not your mindset, like the way my mindset works is it kind of stops thinking about that sort of thing in relation once your brain kind of locks into one individual. But I think it's because my brain, I think in a very compartmentalized way. So I would have a hard time answering the question. I'm sure you're like, I would do this and I would record it and put it on whatever that website was you said the other day. Again and again.
My answer is size snoodles.
Size
If
noodles.
you're talking kissing, I mean,
them big old lips.
Those lips are made for kissing. Yeah.
That is sickening. Let's see. I'll try to answer as many questions as we can here in the last few minutes. If you want to try to fire them off, folks, we're going to try to give it maybe 5 to 10 more minutes max, because again, after the 2-hour mark, it starts to run the risk of crapping out on us. Let's see. Is the Battlefront book any good? Never bought it, but since playing and loving the game, is it worth it?
That's another one that we would.
Yeah, we would vehemently disagree on that one too. I liked it. It is a grim war drama. There's not a lot of joy in that book at all.
Or entertainment.
I found it, because I've been waiting to see really a gritty Star Wars war tale, I enjoyed it sort of for what it was, and I liked some of the characters, but it was kind of a slog to get through, so it's sort of one of those, am I glad that I read it? Sure. Was it a decent book or a good book? I would say probably so. Would I read it again? No. Like, having read it once, is it one of those ones that I'd be like, yeah, this is cool enough, I'm going to read it again? No. But then again, to be fair, I don't tend to reread a lot of books because of how many different book series I'm trying to read all at once. Like right now I'm trying to get through, I got the newest Joe Ledger book. I know there's a new one in the Tucker Wayne series by James Rollins. He's got a couple originals I still need to read. I've got some stuff from Dune that I'm still working on now that I finished Mentats of Dune. So I'm just kind of yeah, I won't reread it again, but that doesn't mean anything. Play Jedi. Is Jedi Academy available on PS4? I don't think it is. It may be. But we're talking, it has to be, if I'm going to play it and going to do any form of a streaming of it, it must be available on PS4.
Yeah, if I would actually set up a Twitch account, I could play it, because I have it on, I may have it on Good Old Games, but I do for sure have it on Steam. I think I have it on both.
There we go. And there's been like 4 or 5 leaked titles for Episode 8. I know we talked about Fall of the Resistance in one of the recent streams, but that's been several. Okay, the Catalyst book that Compton Roberts is asking about is Rogue One Catalyst, and who is going to write it. I haven't heard a whole lot about it. In fact, I was really only following the comic news when it came to the Rogue One tie-ins, and it turns out that the Rogue One tie-in comic wound up getting canceled anyway. So I'm kind of like, oh. Oh,
which,
okay.
We haven't talked about that. How do you feel about that?
About it being canceled?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it just depends on, were they going to be able to do justice to the story given when they wanted to tell it? And part of me says, I would love to see a tie-in because I like, I really liked Before the Awakening. The Poe Dameron comic is turning out to be pretty decent, though I'm wondering about the timing placement of that in relation to Before the Awakening and how soon before the film. But that's all the chronologist in me that's having issues. I'm enjoying the stories so far, even if they're fighting over an egg or something. But I gotta say, the tie-in, let's explain something from the films, comics, in a sense, I've been soured on it a little by the C-3PO comic. It was delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed as a tie-in. It dropped the Journey of the Force Awakens logo on it, or label on it, because it was delayed so long. And it turned out to be shit. It turned out to be a story that really didn't need to be told, or at least didn't need to be told in that venue. It could have just been like a little blurb in a visual guide or something, and the artwork was, in my opinion, awful, though I think we disagree on the artwork. So I guess the question is, were they going to be able to put out a quality piece of work within the time allotted and have it out in a time of still being relevant, or were they just going to wind up with something that was going to have to be constantly delayed? If you're looking at numerous delays for something specifically designed as a tie-in comic, unless it's super, super relevant, I'm good with them dropping it. It just depends. Did I like the Republic Commando books?
It would have been fine, but the problem is it's kind of almost like the Aftermath thing. The delays almost gave it too much fanfare. I think
C-3PO is coming. C-3PO is coming again. C-3PO is coming next week. Over.
Yeah, I think that they under anticipated audiences' curiosity about the Red Arm, and then because people are like, well, this is going to explain it. We have been wanting to know, like, how the hell did this happen? And then on top of that,
it turns out to be stupid.
Well, no, I was going to say, and then on top of that, it has. It keeps getting delayed, so everyone's like, it keeps getting delayed. Like, what the hell is going to happen here?
Yeah. It's like every time it's delayed, people expect the quality level to go up. Like, no.
Right, and
no.
Well, and I think it also just generated more press for it, And I think by that point, things just kind of hit a what do you call it? I don't know. Point being, I think there's just sort of a boiling point with it, and.
Gotcha. Let's see. Question. Did you like the Republic Commando novels by Karen Traviss? Yes and no. I really enjoyed the Karen Traviss Republic Commando novels when they were telling an ongoing story. And I say that to contrast with the fact that the last Republic Commando novel... Not Republic Commando. The Imperial Commando novel that picked up where they left off. The last one she wound up doing because she wound up not continuing to write for Star Wars and all that controversy and all that.
Took her ball and went home.
Before she took her ball and went home, was basically the same conversations and the same mental processes over and over again running around in circles. They could have condensed that book and its plot points into about 2 or 3 chapters at the beginning of another book and told a better story. So it's kind of like my feeling with Zahn. I think that she started out very strong, but her last work or works, I would say in that case just mainly the one, Imperial Commando 501st, were very poor. Whereas with Zahn, I would say, I guess the context, with Zahn, I would say that Zahn was good for the Thrawn trilogy, really good for the Thrawn trilogy, pretty good for Hand of Thrawn. But then by the time you get to Allegiance to Choices of One, crap, and then Scoundrels kind of picked it up again. And, okay, you were saying, and this will probably be the last comment before we got to go because we're at 2 hours and 3 minutes. I don't want it to die. So I'm jumping out of the game for what it's worth.
Okay, so my question is, do you think, and this is me trying to be fair, because I think that she, when I say take her ball and go home, I mean that with all disrespect possible.
Oh, with all disrespect possible. Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, Karen Traviss.
But
what the? That's not what
I can't stand that. I think that's super childish. But to be fair, I will back it up a little bit and question: do you think that her novels going downhill could be due to the fact that maybe she was handcuffed.
I think possibly. I think that what she ran into. Or like, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because
Flag.
that I at least can give her a little more credit to, of saying, you know what, now I can't even tell the stories that I've started because
Right.
you've put up this giant roadblock. The quality of the story is lesser. So I think that is kind of a legitimate legitimate excuse for turning in lesser quality work.
And she did say that the constraint. I mean, the constraints were why it's basically she had directions that she was going with these characters and building up over the years. Couldn't do that anymore because of the things the Clone Wars was doing, and they were basically restricting possibilities. And given the choice, the business choice and the writing choice, to go on to something else or continue committing long ahead of time to do the Star Wars works. I mean, people don't realize how long in advance these things usually have to be written to get through all the different parts of the process. I mean, it was months and months and months in advance just for me to write a friggin' 14-page Star Wars Tales story. I mean, holy crap. It's nothing.
Well, that's
and yet it took
barely
forever. But I would say that I don't know. I think that the restrictions may have played a role in why Imperial Commando 501st turned out the way that it did, but she was talking about the need for closure for these characters, and that would seem to be what the fans were clamoring about. And unless the only way to give any kind of closure for the characters was to do something that was so beyond the bounds of what Lucasfilm would have allowed that it was outright impossible, she could have done something in 501st to give some kind of closure, because 501st, again, it's the same conversations and the same thought processes for the characters over and over and over, and no real sense of closure. And then when it didn't get picked up, and then Alsta didn't wind up writing a follow-up as people thought it was going to at one point, it winds up just kind of falling flat. But I think it's a complex interweaving, and I think that if, as someone who has written for two existing universes now, Wars and Star Wars, and having had the experience of writing and publishing, or having published my own original works, when you have a limited amount of time to actually do the writing and do all the different steps involving it, and there are a lot of hoops involved, even for something that is an original work, talking about editing and the publishing process and just all the things that are sort of foisted on you. And you're planning that's your career, and you're having to plan ahead months, if not years in advance. If you're getting to a point where there's a frustration to the process and you don't feel like you're going to be able to produce something of a work that you would want to do, a quality you'd want to do, a story you want to tell, or something you want to give voice to, it's an easy business decision then to say, you know what, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to step away and I'm going to do this. And I think the issue there was she was a fairly controversial figure within Star Wars writing at the time, as were the books that she wrote. And the result was that and she was also very vocal online. She was one of the first Star Wars writers to be really heavy in the online circles, particularly the blogs and things like that, I think it just kind of blew up out of proportion and went extreme, pretty much, more or less. But yeah, so to answer that, and then last things here as Marion jumps in. Hey, Marion. Hey, Duck. We're on the way out of here. Is a comment that Timothy Zahn's characters oftentimes are impronounceable. I think it's easy to pronounce Mara Jade. It's easy to pronounce Talon Card. It's easy to pronounce Thrawn. But I love Mithron Nuruodo. It took me a long time to learn how to pronounce that sucker. Mithron Nuruodo. Oh yeah, baby. Star Wars nerd. All right, so that'll be all for us, folks. We're at 2 hours and 8 minutes. I don't want the stream to die on us. You can find both of us on Cloud City Casino, the podcast it's about gaming and a little bit of collecting, over at StarWarsReport.com. You can also find me with Mark Hurleman talking some Legends and canon topics on Star Wars Beyond the Films, also at StarWarsReport.com. My Star Wars Timeline Gold, the most comprehensive Star Wars chronology available anywhere, can be found on StarWarsFanWorks.com/timeline. You can find those projects all on Facebook with their own Facebook pages, SW Timeline Go, SW Beyond Films, Cloud City Casino. Just stick them after that, Facebook.com/. And of course, you find the bulk of these on Twitter as well. We have at SWFanWorks on Twitter. That's the one that retweets the stuff that I post on Facebook for the timeline. At SW Beyond Films is the one for Star Wars Beyond the Films. And the Cloud City Casino one is, what? Is it just Cloud City Casino? Or is that too long? I forget. I use it.
That's it.
Yeah, at Cloud City Casino. There you go. I use it on my iPad, but I don't remember the last time I actually logged into the thing. And of course, on this channel, you can find from the Star Wars Home Video Library, you can find a guide to Disney Infinity for Star Wars fans. You can find the old From the Star Wars Library videos that have not continued. You've got the vlog, lots of content here, and hopefully in the very near future, within about the next month, you'll start getting more of that type of content, particularly the vlogs and whatnot. Right now, the move is still underway. Things are still packed. That area is covered up at this point with tons of boxes. That's why I'm just doing more of the streams, because at least it's something I can produce without needing that space. We'll be closing on the house on Friday, moving in within the month of June. So hopefully by the end of June, new setup, new Star Wars room, books probably in the background, which seems to be the consensus, and more content. Whew. And I said all that in a minimum number of breaths, I think. Michael, thank you again for joining me. I know you're kind of tying this into the Cloud City Casino stuff, but you never have to come on and take my crap for stuff like Aftermath. So I appreciate you hopping in and joining me in some Battlefront.
Like I did.
He thought he gave as much crap as he got, but I'm the guy up there in the picture in the box, so I win by default, right? That's what it is. All right, so we're gonna record some more stuff on Thursday for Cloud City Casino. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Might try to drop in and do a stream there. I'm just kind of in a holding pattern waiting for the next steps to get done as far as the house goes and everything. And it's a very calm couple of days. So thank you all for watching, and we will catch you next time on the stream here.